of integration of ICT in integration of ICT in the education sector. Then we're going to look at the Then we're going to look at the benefits of ICT in education. Then we are going to look at the fourth point is ICT tools and resources, then challenges in integrating ICT, then global standards and benchmarks, then strategies for successful integration, then case study of schools in Umuahia, then the future of ICT in education, then we conclude. So it's not going to be a very lengthy discussion. Okay, let's go back to the first slide. Our introduction. Information and communication technology, ICT, has become a pivotal force in the modern educational landscape. Here's a brief overview of its importance in contemporary teaching and learning. Now, access to information. ICT, we know it helps us to have access to a lot of information. It enhances engagement and interactivity, personalized learning, collaboration and communication, convenience and flexibility, skill development for the future, teacher empowerment, global awareness, continuity of education. So all these are some of the things that if our school in Nigeria are able to integrate ICT, we're all going to enjoy these packages. And that will improve the standard of education in our country, in line with the fourth goal of SDG, that's quality education. So the next slide is historical perspective. And I'm going to be looking at the evolution of ICT. Now, looking at the board here, you see a very graphic picture of how ICT has moved from using of the chalkboard, because this is also technology, using of the chalkboard, that's the blackboard and chalk, to the use of the whiteboard and marker, to now the use of these gadgets, that's interactive whiteboard. Now, it is very important for schools to transit, because most schools in Abia State some schools are still using even the blackboard. Some schools have moved to the use of the whiteboard with a whiteboard marker, but very few schools, I don't think I can count up to 3 or 4 that are now using the interactive whiteboard. So it means that there is a need for us to really integrate technology in our classrooms. And I'm just going to give a brief history of the pre-computer era. That's when we use the chalkboards and slates, books and libraries only. Then we have the initial computer age, where mainframe computers are used, computer laboratories are now seen in schools, and basic software. Then the internet age is that era where we are currently in now, where we use the internet access. That some schools have the internet access, because if you're going to be using the interactive whiteboards, you need the internet access. And then email and basic web tools. There are so many tools that we use also to help further the cause of quality education in our country. So then post-internet explosion is when learning management systems are now included in schools. We have websites like Moodle and Blackboard provided a structured online environment for courses. Then we have the interactive whiteboards. Then we have the tablets and laptops and the ebooks. Then from 2010 to now, we have the massive open online courses, platforms like Coursera, edX, and the rest of them. Then we have the virtual reality and augmented reality, that's AR. These technologies are being used for immersive learning experiences. Then now we have the artificial intelligence. Customized learning experiences are being developed through AI and machine learning algorithms. Then we have the cloud computing. It allows for more seamless sharing of educational resources and collaborative projects. Then the social media now, platforms like YouTube, Twitter, and others are being used for informal learning, communication, and outreach. Now, the pandemic influence also, because we are trying to put everything in historical perspective. So we look at the pandemic influence. Prior to pandemic, most schools do not use some technological tools like the Zoom and the rest that we are using currently. Most people were not even aware of this particular technology, but pandemic made it to become commonplace that everybody now uses Zoom to teach, to have online classes and the rest. So remote learning during the COVID was accelerated or is currently accelerated. And then we use Zoom, Microsoft Word, Teams, and then video conferencing, then digital assessments, online quizzes, exams, and assessment became more prevalent. Then digital inequality. The pandemic also highlighted the digital divide, prompting efforts to provide more equitable access to technology. So you agree with me that with the advent of the pandemic, the use of technology has accelerated because we have now seen that there could be a time when we will be, away from school, and then how do we now bridge that gap to reach our children at home and teach them? So technology is very important, and I feel we need to understand the transition so that we get into the flesh of the topic. So the next slide is the benefits of ICT in education. Now, ICT has lots of benefits like interactive learning. If you go to a classroom that is well equipped with technological tools, like the interactive whiteboards and the rest of them, you will realize that children interact with their learning materials, they interact within themselves. And the reason why it's called an interactive whiteboard is because it's a smart board. It gives you feedback. It has a touch. It's a touch screen that you could actually play with, and then you get feedback immediately. So whatever question you are asked, you could actually get an instant answer, and it makes learning to be fun. So this is one of the benefits. Then personalized learning experiences. Learning is personalized. We all know that the children are different. So if you want it from creativity and problem solving skills and digital literacy and global awareness. Now these tools, most educational tools, help us to enhance our digital literacy and global awareness. We get to know things that are happening across the world without actually visiting because of the use of internet, which is also an aspect of technology that should be used in schools. Then it enhances our creativity and problem solving skills. There are lots of problems that AI now is solving in the education sector. Like so many people now are aware of Chat GPT and how teachers are now keen into the use of Chat GPT to form their lessons, to simplify their instructions and teach children using AI technology. So these are some of the benefits that we could just enjoy when technology is fully integrated in all schools in Abia State. And I think that's why we're raising a clarion call for stakeholders, for the government, for people that are interested in education, the community leaders, to key into this project and ensure that all schools, all classrooms are well connected with technological tools. Then the ICT tools and resources. What are these ICT tools and resources that we're talking about? Now, we have e-learning platforms where you could have Moodle, edX, EDX, right? And then we have the learning, the virtual reality and augmented reality in learning, where children could actually see things that are almost so real and all that because with the use of virtual reality. Then educational apps and software, online assessment tool. Now, to list just for the few, we have learning management systems like Moodle, Blackboard, Canvas, Google Classroom, Schoology, and then we have online collaboration platforms like Microsoft Teams, Slack for education, Zoom, WebEx, Trello. Then we have virtual reality and augmented reality tools like Google Expeditions, Class VR, and others like eSpace and Matterport. Then we have the interactive whiteboards, which is now beginning to find a place in our classrooms. Smartboard, then we have the Promethean, Active Board, the Jamboard. Then we have the educational software and apps like Kahoot. I don't know if so many of you, how many of you have used Kahoot before? Any response? If you've used Kahoot before, please drop a response in the chat room. If you've used Kahoot before, it's a very interesting tool for learning, for seminars, for interactions in the classroom, especially with the older children. You could use Kahoot for them to get instant answers. You set questions with the answers and they log in, they start answering, and they get their instant answers there and then. So we have the Duolingo, we have the Quizlet, we have the Scratch, that's the Scratch programming. Most schools now are doing coding, robotics are coding. So they are using Kahoot. Then we have the Adobe Creative Cloud for education. Then we have assessment tools also. The Turnitin, the Socrative, the Edpuzzle, the Formative, the ProProof Quiz Maker. These are all ICT tools. Then we have the online repositories and libraries. That's the JSTOR, Google Scholar, OpenStax, Project Gutenberg, Khan Academy, and lots of them. So that means we've not even scratched the surface in the use of technology in our classrooms. Now, most of us, when we begin to use like just projectors, we feel like, oh, this is just what, this is like the apex of it. But then there are lots of other tools that we could actually use with sensitization, with orientation and all that. These tools will help us to actually improve the quality of education in our country. So I don't know if I'm moving very fast. If there's a question, please call my attention so that I will pause a little, right? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, please? I need responses. Am I moving too fast?
Yes, you are not. You're not. We can hear you.
Okay. So, and I'll be asking questions towards the end of this webinar so that I'll have responses. All right. So, challenges in integrating ICT. Now, whatever have disadvantage, it also has its own. That has advantage, it also has its own disadvantages. So there are challenges in implementing or integrating ICT in our education space. Now, the first is the infrastructure limitations. Now, we will all know that lack of reliable internet and modern hardware, especially in low-income or rural areas, hinders ICT implementation. Now, if you go around schools, the only schools that you see ICT is being used are the hybrid school. hybrid schools. In our state, Abia State, we have just few hybrid schools that are using this technology. So there is also there is the problem of infrastructure. That's putting up the systems, the hardware, the softwares, internet, electricity, and the rest of them. These are the problems. These are challenges that mitigate the use of integrating ICT into the classroom. And by integrating ICT, we do not just mean for teaching children ICT, but we mean schools that are now technologically connected classrooms, where you find when you enter the classroom, there are visual aids like interactive whiteboards, there are sound aids, there are the classroom is connected with speakers, with internet, with interactive whiteboard, and then you have access to tools, because once you have internet, you have access to a variety of platforms where knowledge could be sourced. Because if you just depend on textbooks, these textbooks are limited. They are written by just few people, 1 or 2%. But when you have variety of information from different sources, especially even when you want to use like the chat GPT, it gives you information from different sources. And the information is usually very specific based on the prompt you give it. So if classrooms are connected, there will be no questions that children will ask in the classroom that you cannot answer if you use your chat GPT in the classroom. This is just an AI technology that is now revolutionizing how we source information. Now, too much dependent on people that are currently using ChatGPT don't even use Google, Google search very much anymore. So the next one is the training, professional development for educators. Now, educators often lack the necessary training to effectively use ICT tools. Now, most teachers, even the computer now, in our states, there are teachers that do not know how to use the computer. And it's very important for teachers to be trained on how to use the computer, how to use these technological tools, how to use the interactive whiteboard. And this lack of training or lack of skills could actually mitigate. I remember when I was having an interaction with one of the prof that visited one of our schools, and then this prof saw interactive whiteboard and was very skeptical if there are teachers in the school that could use it. So I told him, I said, almost every teacher has been trained to use the interactive whiteboard. And he said he remember when they brought it to a university, like the professors could not use it. So it became just a waste. They don't use it, it's installed in the classrooms, but because of the lack of, I think is the next point I'm even getting into, the resistance to change. Because of that resistance to change, we were not able to just learn, the new skill and use it. So they just decided to stay in their shelves. So I think with training, a lot of teachers will be empowered, and then that will also have a positive effect on our education, system, and the quality of education will be transformed drastically. Then resistance to change. I've already mentioned that so many teachers are resistant to change. They just don't want to look bad. They feel very comfortable being who they are. They have a fixed mindset that when a new technology is introduced in a school or in a system, they feel agitated and resist the use of it because they feel like it's just going to expose their weaknesses. But once, I think, with training, with reorientation, they will get, teachers need to understand that there is the way the world is going. If we don't embrace technology, we'll be left behind. if we don't embrace technology, we'll be left behind because technology is transforming things at a very rapid speed. So we need to also catch up with the other world, what they are doing in the education sector. We need to also measure up so that these things begin to work for our systems. Then privacy and security issues. Now, with the use of technology, children could be exposed to cybercrime and other things. But I think with control, we'll be able to find a way of protecting them from cybercrime, cyberbullying, all the other crimes that happen in the internet. And then also security issues, because it can be very volatile, the system, that so many things could go wrong with the use of the internet. But with blockchain technology now, I think the security could be strengthened and all that. So protecting student data and maintaining cybersecurity are significant concerns, especially with increased online interactions. So it's very important that even as we are advocating for the use of internet, for the use of technology, we also need to put it at the back of our mind that privacy and security issues are a challenge to the use of technology, especially children that when you allow them with the system, they get easily carried away. So privacy needs to be checked, and also we need to also make sure they are fine and secured. Then the next slide, I think, is global standards and benchmarks. Global standards and benchmarks. So when we say we want to integrate internet in our communities, in our schools to reach the global standards, what are these global standards? We need to understand what the global standards are. So competency frameworks for educators. Now, specifies the skills and knowledge educators need to integrate technology effectively in the classroom. So there are skills that a teacher needs to have before he's even recruited to teach. For instance, schools that have all this technology, if you cannot operate any of them, you're not qualified to teach in such schools. So with this in place, that means there should be a massive orientation and training of teachers so that the teachers will be empowered to be able to do the same thing that a teacher is doing in the UK, that a teacher is doing in the US, that a teacher is doing in Canada, in all parts of the world. And this boils down to skills acquisition. Now, gone are the days when the teacher will just come into the classroom with his book and then just with a pen and then he's writing on the board. Now we need to learn the skills. Our teachers need to be trained to learn all the skills, this competency frameworks for educators. There has to be a skill development so that they will function very well, so that they will reach the standards, the same level with their counterparts in different parts of the world. Then digital citizenship. The guidelines for responsible and ethical use of technology in an educational setting. Also very important. We need to have a guideline, design a guideline that will help our teachers to know the right use of these digital resources, because when we use them wrongly, they're going to be counterproductive. So there should be some kind of guidelines that meet up with the guidelines all around. So a comparative analysis of these guidelines around the world will help us to now formulate our own guidelines that teachers will be able to now operate based, so that everybody is just doing the same thing. Then curriculum integration. Our curriculums need to be technology needs to be integrated into our curriculum. Most of our curriculum are just obsolete. They are not really going with the trends. There are curriculums that are now outdated. And with the introduction of AI, if children are not taught AI in the school currently, then the curriculum is outdated, because technology is taking over and children need to also learn all these things at a very fast pace. So curriculum integration is very key. Technology needs to be integrated in our curriculum. Then infrastructure and accessibility. Infrastructure and accessibility guidelines were necessary. Infrastructure, including high-speed internet, hardware requirements, and ensuring accessibility for all students, including those with disabilities. Now, because all schools now, globally, we are moving towards what we call the inclusive education, that all children should learn under the same roof, regardless of their disabilities or abilities. So if these children are going to be in the same classroom, with the same teachers, and all that, then there is need for availability of infrastructures that will help, that a child that cannot listen very well should have a listening aid. A child that cannot see very well should have some kind of glasses and all that, things that will help them to work normal, like every normal child in the classroom. And it's technology that will help all these things. So these are some of the global standards, that the benchmarks that we need to start measuring ourselves to see, have we really reached these competency frameworks for educators? I think I should pause and ask these questions. Do you think we've reached these competency frameworks for educators? Are we on that level? If we're not on that level, what do you think we should do, or the stakeholders or government and private school owners should do for teachers to reach the competency level of other teachers around the world? This is just a question. If you have the answers, you could just drop it in the chat room. What do you think we need to do to meet the competency level of schools around the world? What do you think we need to do? Kindly drop your question, your answers in the chat box. Just drop some words. I'm waiting. I won't say a word until I see some responses. Do you think we've reached this benchmark, the first benchmark, competency frameworks for educators, which talks about skills and knowledge educators need to integrate technology effectively in the classroom? Do our teachers have the skills to integrate technology in the classroom? Waiting. Yes, we can. Or someone said, yes, we can. Is it not just right now? Or do you think our teachers have the competence? He said, yes, we can. Okay. That's Uche Jumbo. Yes, we can. We can means there's a room for improvement, right? Okay, hi everyone, my name is Uche Jumbo. Nice to meet with you all, okay? Massive investing in the ICT training and retraining of teachers. Okay, so someone says there's a need for massive investing in the ICT training and retraining of teachers. I agree with you, valid point. Massive investing in the ICT training and retraining of teachers. Absolutely correct. That's from Aziza. Thank you very much, Azizat, for this wonderful response. Waiting for one more or two more, so I'll proceed. What else do you think should be done for us to reach this level of, because believe me, I know if you don't have certain skills, you cannot work in schools in the UK. You cannot work in schools in Canada and the rest. Is it the same in Nigeria? There are Nigerian teachers that do not have laptops, do not have even Android phones. What do you think needs to be done for all these things to be resolved? For all these things to be for our education sector to be upgraded, providing the necessary tools for teacher to educate students, such as interactive board. I agree with you. So schools to provide, government should provide these tools. But if these tools are provided and the teacher doesn't have the skill, that's when this massive investing in the ICT and training and retraining of teachers comes in. So when these tools are provided, they also need to be utilized. So it shouldn't be the case of those professors that I talked about that have a resistance to change. All right. Let's proceed. Strategies for successful integration of ICT in our education sector. What are the strategies? Comprehensive training for educators, exactly what you said. Comprehensive training for educators. Now, there should be training and retraining and continuous professional development of teachers. Teachers need to learn every new technology, every technology that will help learning to take place in the classroom. For learning to be effective in the classroom, teachers are supposed to be trained on the use of those technologies. Now, I believe some teachers in the rural areas do not even have phones. And phones, because there's internet, phones could be used for training of teachers. I mean, for teaching in the classroom, phones could be used because once you have access to your Google educational tools, like the Google Classrooms, like the drives, like all other things, even Zoom, when children are at home and they have this facility, you could easily teach children from home. You could guide children on how to do their homeworks at home. During holidays, classes could still be going on when children are at home. When we have another case of pandemic, because the teachers are equipped and empowered, learning would still take place. There will not be gap. The curriculum will still flow all through the year. Because what happened during the pandemic was a total shutdown of education in Nigeria. Very few schools rise to the occasion and use technological tools to bridge the gap. Very few schools did that. Some schools use WhatsApp. Yes, it could be used for teaching too. That's also a tool. Some schools use the Zoom, some use Google Meet, some use different platforms. So teachers need to be familiar with the use of these things. This is one of the strategies. Then investing in reliable infrastructure. Just like Aziza said, investing in ICT. This is one of the strategies for the implementation or integration of ICT in schools around Nigeria, in Abia State, in Umuahia specifically. Now, engaging all stakeholders, students, parents, and administrators. I think this is where we come in. Because what we are doing actually, we are engaging with stakeholders, we're engaging with students, we're engaging with parents to ensure they understand, they know how to use these technological tools, they know how to, they know the importance of it, so that children will benefit from such gestures. Children will benefit from the use of technology at home. It has a way of accelerating learning to a great extent. So engaging with stakeholders, with government, people in our community, on the use of, on the successful, effective use of technological tools will really help to transform our educational sector. That's going to also help us to achieve the quality education, the sustainable goal of quality education. Then, case study. This is a school in Umuahia. And this smart board is from the school. With a projector, you could see this is a teacher's table. So the laptop is there connected to the system. There's 24 hours internet. And then the only challenge is sometimes electricity is not provided. But with electricity, these challenges could be removed and children would benefit from it. Because if you're teaching children, for instance, teaching them about maybe something that is just alien to them. Like recently I was teaching Chinese, I was teaching children Chinese, what is it called? Chinese New Year. And I just played the occasion on YouTube. Children watched it and I asked questions. Because it's written in the book, they've read it, they've watched the videos, they've listened to the sounds. It was very interactive and they enjoyed it. So you were able to remember everything. So that's what technology does to our children, our education. Now, most schools in the UK, they use this kind of technology to teach the children. And for us to have these kind of schools in Umuahia, it means that it is possible for government to invest in education and upgrade all government schools to be like this. If they're able to do this and train teachers to be able to use these tools, to be able to teach very well and provide quality education, then the quality of our education will improve and we will achieve that SDG goal 4, because this is what the whole theme is about, achieving the SDG goal 4, that's quality education. So this is a case study for us to see vividly that if we could have this kind of infrastructure with all the classes having this connected like this, with speakers, with audio visual, with sounds and everything, then we would have started making progress in ensuring that technology is integrated in our education system. Then the future of ICT in education. What is the future of ICT in education? I think, okay, the future of ICT in our education is basically the fact that adaptive learning systems are like AI-powered platforms could offer highly personalized learning experiences by analyzing students' performance in real time and adjusting instructional materials accordingly. Then automated grading and assessments, like AI algorithms, would handle routine grading tasks, freeing up educators to focus more on interactive teaching. Then early intervention, like predictive analytics, could identify students at risk of falling behind or dropping out, allowing for timely interventions. Then lifelong learning platforms like micro-credentials and digital badges platforms may offer takeable, easily digestible learning units that professionals can undertake throughout their careers. There are lots of other things like global classrooms, like augmented reality, that's AR, and then virtual reality, VR. Then gamification, accessibility and inclusivity, then data privacy and security. All these are predictive technologies. Like these are things that in the nearest future, you begin to see countries are transiting towards that direction, but we seem to be left far behind. So it is just for us to start from where we are, to start just incorporating the little technology that we are not using currently. Then from there, we could also start transiting just like other nations are doing. And it's for everybody. Technology is all. Once you have internet, you have access to technology. Once you have the phone and then you have internet, you have access to a whole body of knowledge that could transform our education sector. So I think this is very important. Then in conclusion, ICT integration is not just a modern convenience, but a fundamental component in elevating the quality, reach, and effectiveness of education in today's interconnected world. The potential of ICT to revolutionize the teaching and learning process is unparalleled, paving the way for more inclusive, personalized, and effective classroom. I thank you for listening. I've finished sharing my slide, but I'm opening the room for interactions. You can unmute yourself and say, I'll ask questions, then I want responses now so that we will now have some kind of interaction. Okay, the first question is, looking at this board now, where do you think more schools in Abia State are currently? Where do you think more schools in Abia State are currently? Is it the blackboard, the whiteboard, or the interactive whiteboard?
The whiteboard.
The whiteboard. Okay, so how do you think we could move from this whiteboard to the interactive whiteboard? What do we need to do? Or what do the stakeholders need to do differently to be able to move from here to here? I need voices in the room. The whiteboard and marker.
Yeah, installation.
But go ahead.
Yeah, installation of the interactive whiteboard.
What?
Installation. We installed
Okay,
the interactive. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so the way you say installation is as if it's available, so they need to just install it. But I understand what you mean. Like government needs to invest and procure these resources for our government school and also schools that are not up to standard in terms of the facilities that need to be in the classroom should not be given approval also. I think when we start like this, all government should also overhaul the whole system, provide all these resources for schools, and then stakeholders would also do that. Most of the schools that have these facilities now are private schools. And these private schools are usually very expensive and they are not accessible for children of the common man. And that's where the problem is. There's still this marginalization in our education space. If the children are not traveling out to get good education, they are getting good education in private schools in Nigeria that have these facilities, but the school fees are usually very exorbitant. So if government would take a bold step to provide this, it will go a long way in providing quality education for all and sundry, because education is supposed to be a right of every person in the society. So one person should not be using the blackboard and others are using the interactive whiteboard. And there's also children. Okay, let me ask you a question first. Do you children that learn using this and children that learn using this, that's the interactive whiteboard, which one do you think will have better information, will develop holistically than the other? Which of these children do you think will enjoy quality education? I just want to know.
The children using the interactive board, we have access to a global resources at their disposal.
Okay, pardon?
I said children with access to the third resources, the interactive whiteboard. We have a lot of resources at their disposal.
Okay, absolutely correct. So children will have more access to information here than here, right? Because this one doesn't even store information. It's what is written on it that you see. But this has information in it. But whatever you're looking for, even meaning of words, there are so much that you can get from there. The internet is here, everything is here, YouTube, everything. So children will have more information using the interactive whiteboards, and they will tend to learn better and perform better because it's engaging than using this blackboard. We've already established that fact. Then coming down to these tools for tools and resources. Now, how many of these tools do you think schools use around us? And what should we do to ensure that these tools are utilized in the classroom? Educational tools like the Google Classroom. I'm not sure most teachers around, in our schools around, use this Google Classroom. It's a complete classroom that you can give homework, you can give, a child can just log in, pick his homework, write, return it into the folder, the teacher picks it, marks it, put it back to the child, and there's this exchange without even interfacing physically. So how many schools do you think utilize this technology in Abia State? And this could be used just by using phone. If you have access to internet and you have a phone, you can do that, you can use that. Then the Edmodo. Edmodo is a tool that parents could actually watch their children learning in the classroom. Like you'll see them physically learning in the classroom using Edmodo. So that parents get to tell children, oh, I saw you doing this in the class. And the children will be wondering, you were not in the classroom, how did you know? So it tends to bring this kind of partnership, connecting the home and the classroom. So there will be a smooth transition from the classroom. So there are interesting and a lot of technology that we utilize. I think I've discussed almost all of them. So at this point, I'll just give room for questioning and input from the panelists. If you have any question or you want to add more information, then you go ahead and do that. It is funny. Uche said, of course, the children with whiteboard and marker. We can't even imagine the white flakes and fluffy chalk that makes our children dirty, funny. looks when covered with such. Okay. Thank you, Azizat. Azizat said, great presentation. Thank you so much. There are questions. Have questions? In the absence of questions. Okay. Go ahead and ask the question, please. Yes, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. During the state of government schools around us, do you think government would be willing to invest in ICT now? That question. Honestly, to be sincere with you, I don't know if they are actually willing to do that, but I think it's something that they need, is a necessity. They need to do it. Government need to really invest in ICT because the way things are going, without the use of ICT in the classroom, our children are deprived of quality education. That is why you see people going out to study. And it's the same thing that you see most private schools are trying to do now. You hear schools saying, we have British curriculum, we have the American curriculum. It's because these children of the privileged children are taken out there to study in UK, for instance. And the curriculum they use there is the British curriculum, of course, the national curriculum of England. Now, in Nigeria, we have schools that have started merging the curriculum, the national curriculum of England with the Nigerian curriculum. Now, for you to adequately deliver this curriculum, you need the internet, you need resources. And without these resources, you cannot function effectively. So government should know that it's not a choice. It is a matter of necessity that children need to be taught using ICT. They're not just to learn the ICT, but they need to be taught using ICT. It needs to be incorporated in our curriculum so that whatever we're doing is we're using the internet. Children have their iPads in their classrooms. They have their laptops in their classrooms. The classroom is well ventilated. It has all the technological tools, internet, and the rest of them. I think that's just the way to go. If we must achieve the quality education as spelled out in the SDG 17 SDG goals, then it's not a choice. It's a must. The government should start investing. As a matter of, in fact, it's even late now. They should have done that like 10 years ago. So I think that shouldn't be a choice. Something that government needs to do. All right, any other question before we call it a wrap in this meeting? Any question? I think Odinaka Chukwu, could you say something, please? As a way of concluding, because I think we are already done. So could you say something? Our next webinar will be on Saturday, I think. I have to check. So say something so that we wrap up today's webinar. All right. We can get better response in terms in terms of leveraging of Abia State government through the Ministry of Education. Absolutely. Especially now that we have a state governor who is tech savvy as a former chairman and CEO of Diamond Bank. Absolutely. All right, we will do that. We will do that. We will try to partner with the government in our project. We have to reach out to them, you know. So now we're just advocating. I think we will have to try and see how we can have audience with the government through the Ministry of Education and do a massive training of teachers. Then also urge the government to provide the needed resources, because if you train and then there are no resources, then the knowledge will be in vain. So we will try to do that. Thank you, sir. We can collaborate with the Commissioner of Education. That's absolutely correct. Thank you, sir. We can do that. We will do that, certainly. Not like we can. We will do that. Thank you for your response. Thank you. This is so beautiful. Mr. Uche Jumbo, thank you so much. I think this is a wrap then. Thank you, Mr. Uche. Thank you. Thank you. Can we close now? If there's no question, then we will have to close. Thank you, Dahiru, for attending. Thank you, Lady V. Thank you, Odinaka Chukwu. Thank you, C. Emmanuel. Thank you, Azizat. Thank you very much for attending our webinar. Next week, keep a date with us. We'll share the link again, and we have another interesting topic to discuss. Thank you so much. I hope this makes sense. Very excellent and educated presentation. Thank you, Dahiru. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we have come to the end of our webinar. Look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Do have a lovely day. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. This meeting has ended.